kitchens in them because they're dangerous. So that's just something that's coming from me. Obviously, the developer of this would know a lot more. They're the care provider, but it just surprised me when I read it. That's all. I don't think I have any other questions. Yes.
You know, as just a comment, as I thought about that, obviously in that particular facility, the units are going to be relatively small. They have commercial kitchens to produce meals, and yet, in the effort to reach a density as set by the Met Council, this developer felt compelled now to go put kitchens in each of these small units. And I think it's a sad situation in which it would obviously take up usable square footage within each of those units that could be otherwise used, because I'm going to bet that most of those things aren't going to be used on a daily basis. I think that it's an unintended consequence, but it is what it is, and if that's what gets passed, will be it. I think that kind of goes along with you.
I would, Chair, might I ask the applicant to address that point, considering I have a question about it?
Okay, Beth?
In researching this in the effort to meet the density requirement, I contacted the Met Council and asked them what their requirement was for units. And they had said that they have a requirement for a kitchenette. And these originally, these units already have a kitchenette. And the kitchenette is a sink and a small snacks. It doesn't need to be a large full-size kitchen. It's just a small kitchenette with a refrigerator, a small refrigerator, a sink, and then either the ability to plug in an oven, small ovens they don't have to be plugged in. So that was, but the fact that they're there and it's available if we can, but we just won't. That is absolutely what we discussed. But it was an effort to try to, because if I don't know quite how to meet comprehensive guideline density requirements on this site. And 32 units really did help us do that. But otherwise I don't know.
Thanks
And
for
still do the single family.
Right, thanks for the clarification. Do you have any other questions?
Okay. Who'd like to go next?
I'll go next.
Commissioner Landerman.
So,
Yours.
thank you. Beth, I think that you did a nice job. Thank you. Coming out of a law enforcement background, though, I know firsthand that these facilities generate a lot of additional police and emergency service calls. Is there a plan for the city to fund extra police or ambulance runs?
That's the first I've heard. I understand there's ambulances because I had another project in that we were looking at this for. But I have not heard specifically that the city would have any involvement in cost. Is that your question? The cost of the city?
Well, what I'm saying is, in my firsthand experience in law enforcement, memory centers often have walkaways in which residents or patients wander off, staff has no idea where they are, and they call the police. Okay, Bobby Sue is missing. Can you help us find her? Well, that requires resources, and I'm wondering if either you or the city have thought about this.
Well, I don't know if it would require any more than a single family home and families and I don't know that. You know that, you must know that as a police officer. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
But what I do wanna say is that we do have a million one intersection and infrastructure in place. The roads are there to get there if they need to and back out. So, and that I believe is ultimately going to be a lighted intersection too.
Okay, all right, thank you. So my comments on this, and I think I've been consistent on my statements about PUDs, and you know, it's a balancing act between what the city is giving up versus the benefits that the city and its residents are receiving. And I think that the proportion of what the city is giving up versus the benefits, I think that that's too great. From the staff report, with respect to flexibility, you know, six main topics. This is page 4 of the staff report at the top of the page. Flexibility from and I think I heard this earlier from a speaker. Flexibility from the shoreline standards to reduce the minimum lot size and width for the villa home lots. Number 2, flexibility from the shoreland and RMF2 district standards to reduce the side yard setback or the villa home lots. Number 3, flexibility from the shoreland and RMF2 district standards to increase the maximum building height. 4, flexibility from the shoreland standards to increase the maximum impervious coverage for the site. Number 5, flexibility from the parking standards to reduce the parking stall length for the site. And finally, number 6, flexibility from the fence standards to have a taller fence than the 4-foot allowed within the required front yard setback. Okay, so that's what we're being asked to give up. In exchange for that, we get A, trees and bushes. B, an additional right-of-way, which I would argue would probably be necessary anyway. C, dedicate a lot to the development for a city booster station. I'd like to learn more about that lot. D, provide easements for city and metropolitan council utilities and access. I think that would need to be provided anyway. Provides a mix of uses that would not otherwise be possible under standard zoning. I'm not sure how that benefits the residents of Corcoran. And finally, F, dedication of 8.36 gross acres of park that our own Parks and Trails Commission recommended that we do not accept. So I'm trying to understand, and again, Beth, I think that you've done a nice job, but I'm trying to understand and weigh what the city is being asked to give up and the citizens are being asked to give up versus the benefits.
Microphone, Beth?
Microphone.
Thank you. I'm gonna address the fence. New Horizon has agreed they don't need the 6 feet. We don't need that as a compromise or flexibility issue. And as far as the setbacks on the 5 feet, we went from an apartment building to single family in order to address the concerns of the neighbors. And what we did is we designed them exactly like the lots of us that were also. So that's where that's coming from. And I think it's appropriate. It is an appropriate transition. They asked for the same. And then I think that one of the other items that isn't in the benefits of the PUD is that we have agreed to take on the water treatment of on Road 10 from Furland to Brockton Lane and take care of that treatment because it needs to take care of that. And so we've agreed to take care of that in the community. So we're designing our water system and our treatment systems. So that's it. And the booster station, I'd like to learn more about that too. That has something to do with the water for the city of Corcoran. So I think that's a great question.
So is this water treatment, is this for your residents, or is this for the city in
road.
general?
It's for the county road, Casat 10, it's for a county road. Yeah, so it's for the whole community that's using County Road 10. There's no, the treatment,
Oh, I thought you said water treatment.
I did.
Okay,
There's
so what does that
stormwater
have to
treatment.
do with the road?
It, well, when it rains, water.
Oh,
And,
okay.
and it has to be calculated and included and treated, and so we're proposing to treat that as a part of our project
Okay.
because of the, so I wanted to just have that because I had thought about it. And our engineers designed the plan.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else, Commissioner Langerman? Okay. Commissioner Varenkamp or Scholak?
Darren, heads or tails? Go ahead.
No questions or comments at this time.
Okay.
That's been the chief way on.
Here, take this.
I'm, all I can really do is go back to the last planning commission meeting. And the comments from the commission up here was that 40, and my biggest thing is that 45-foot building was however big before. The shoreline wetland maximum is 25 feet, if I remember right. I said I could not support something taller than that. We also talked about, and if I remember right, it's getting late, the New Horizon, a commercial lot in this mixed residential area just didn't fit. The tall building didn't fit. All of those things. While you've done a great job, and I don't mean this negatively, but it's presenting exactly what you presented to us before, other than adding a few more single-family homes and taking out that apartment. I can't support it because it, like I said, many of us said, this does not fit in the entrance to Corcoran. If I set that aside, Maple Grove has done many things to add 3 stories, 4 stories at the intersection of 101 and 10, and I don't know what would be a good transition or what would fit. I would be curious to hear all of the residents from the neighborhood at Bass Lake Crossings, how many people actually said this is something that's good and it works. So I would like to hear numbers, not just 1 or 2 or a few people wrote letters. So again, I don't see enough change. I don't see enough of what we said. It just didn't work. And the last time we met, I think I said, what would we accept? And I think that was kind of said, that's not up to us right now. It's us saying no to this. And I summed up what we said back in April. It's getting late, like I said, and thank you guys. A 25-foot tall, 2-story building, if that was part of it, and again, if I'm redesigning this, I'm sorry, but I could not say no to that as long as it didn't infringe on the wetland stuff. A commercial property on here, I think somebody said what makes it so that if the memory care area goes away, what prevents it from being another commercial property? That's all kind of come through us. Again, it's getting late and I'm getting tired, but I hope by what I'm saying it helps, but I can't support this. There's just not enough change back to things that are non-PUD or conditional use permit or anything. It just doesn't work for me. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Schulak? Okay, that's right. You can. Okay. I'd like to maybe just kind of take on a technical issue if I could. So, looking at the residentials, the development is proposing 20 lots, and I'll first say, I fully support removal of that flag lot. It's been mentioned by this commission before that having 8 driveways in a cul-de-sac makes no sense. Okay, so with that being said, I'm curious to know about, and this might be a question then obviously answered by both our professional staff and the applicant, but we've got 40 by 70 building pads. Now, Kendra, question, in the building pad, that would include then the pad that will be graded for the home, the principal structure, and which may or may not include then any decks or porches to that, correct?
So on that exhibit on C 2.0 that I think you're looking at, that building pad, you can see, first of all, you can see the setback shown on there, so just beyond the building pad, there's a little bit of a setback. So it has to include the deck, within that setback. So 70 foot's a pretty deep pad, so
Well, I won't.
I'm not sure what they drew.
Yeah, I won't disagree with that, but we all remember our issue with Ravinia. And after that, I swore that I was gonna go through, these developments and make sure that we don't run into this again. But there are 10 of 20 lots, as they're depicted here, that would have significant challenges because the building pad is on or is so close to that pad line that it would render any building beyond that pad not permissible. And that would be lots 3, 4, 5, 6, 13, 14, 15, 16, 18, 19, and you questionable lot 20. Now, so I got thinking about that pad. So 70 feet. Now, the applicant obviously does not have a developer or builder picked out yet. So we have basically no information as to what types of homes. But it has been mentioned numerous times that they are going to be similar, if not built by M&I Homes, who built the neighborhood next door. And this has been referenced and compared to that neighborhood throughout this report, throughout the history of this proposal. But here's the deal. With a 70-foot building pad and looking at what's been built over in the neighborhood next door, now these are as I've measured from Google Earth, and starting from lot 16, the corner, and going north, this is how deep the building is. 72, 72, 75, a 61, 71, a 51, but then it goes 74, 72, 64, 72, 51, 70, 72, 74, 74, and 60. So 70% of the homes just on that one side of the street have homes that would not fit on these lots as they're being proposed. And that's without then considering anything about decks, patios. And so I'm wondering what, Beth, you obviously would like.
I totally know where you're going, but I have researched this. I
Okay.
have contacted John Rask from MI Homes, and these lots were designed to fit that product. So I had to the MI Homes product that is in Bass Lake Crossing. So I reached out to John and said, I want to make sure, John, I was watching that planning commission meeting, and I reached out to him during that meeting and said, can you tell me if the 70-foot pads that we've got on these lots fit your decks and your patios? And he said, or porches, and he said yes. So I did check into it. I heard you. I thought that was a valid concern because what happened in Ravinia is I think it's really shouldn't
Oh,
happen.
Okay, but just by default,
Yeah.
because the pads and half of these lots are right on the building setback, right? Okay,
Okay.
because they're right on it, you can't build houses that are similar exactly. You'd have to build the smaller versions, but you can't build the most popular ones within Bass Lake because they would exceed 70 feet. And if they exceed 70 feet, at least on half of those lots, they're going to exceed the buildable area on that lot.
So it was my understanding that the pads, and I don't know where, did you measure them on Google Earth, or was there a plat? Do you have the Bass Lake Crossings plat? Maybe that would be more accurate. But John, the builder, developer, who I know intimately is involved in all of his developments, told me that the 70 feet includes their porches and their, because I asked him, and that's what he told me. So I'm just telling you, we designed it to fit the houses that are in Bass Lake Crossings. And I believe a 70-foot pad is a very deep pad. I've done residential development for many, many years, as you know, and we never built 70-foot pads because the houses were never that deep, right?
They were wider.
They
They're wider.
right? And so it's different, and it's evolved over time. But he assured me that that is the size of their pads in Bass Lake Crossing, and I don't believe that Bass Lake Crossing has had any issues to my knowledge, and with that the same in Virginia.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't keep the materials for that, but
I want to just reiterate that I did my homework, and I will look into that. That's something that is I don't want to develop lots that people can't put decks on. That makes absolutely no sense. So, or porches on. So I would agree with you. I think that's an important element to make sure that we're correct on. So I agree with you. But I do want you to know that I did take note of that in that meeting and checked into it.
okay, great, thank you. Now, the request on the PUD is for, of course, 5-foot side setbacks. And again, while we have kind of taken the notion that 7.5 feet was suitable, in looking at probably our most recent adoption of a resolution for a PUD would be Tavara. Here, for their villa homes, we've agreed to 6,600 square foot lot minimums with 55-foot lot widths minimum. And that the living and side garage would be 7.5 feet. This certainly would be a departure from what we have traditionally done. Again, in an effort to try to curb what we have seen criticism of, and that is, tightly packed homes. In a development where one of the major concerns of this development has been its density. I was more than surprised to see that this came back. It still even has the flag lots, and there was no movement on any of those homes. To say the least, I was surprised. And to Mr. Varenkamp's point. And while you cannot give accolades enough to the neighborhood next door and to the developer and Beth, working working so hard to find agreements on this, and no one questions that, and especially the developers have been more. I mean, the second time they came back and got rid of an apartment building, I never would have guessed it. I could have gone to Vegas and bet all my money that was never going to happen, but it did. But with that being said, the denials on the first two attempts or the recommendation, wasn't necessarily and exclusively because the neighborhood next door voiced their opposition to it. It certainly was compelling, but it wasn't the only issue. And from my point of view, without any real significant changes in what we initially have for the past two times have denied, changes into the zoning and the uses of this land, along with the physical changes of the landscape, which I think some of us feel very strongly that need to be preserved, whether it's for your trail or for the nature. But we don't get the opportunity to save these that much anymore, as we've all seen, and especially with the recent activities going on 116. So it would be giving the reasons that I voted to recommend denial of this before and the last two times. I think it would be hypocritical of me to all of a sudden reverse my vote because the neighbors along that path all of a sudden had a reverse of heart, or some of you, and there's other reasons that was not the sole reason. And so subject to any changes that this commission wants to make to the ordinances, I'm going to vote for denial. So now that we have all had a chance to speak, how do we all feel about where we want to go with either recommending approval of this development or approving the denial to the planning or to the city council?
I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay, please make a motion.
I make a motion to move to recommend approval of the resolution denying the request.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay. Not having any, and I don't believe that there would be then any changes to that resolution. I read it over, I did not. Yeah. So, all right, well, we have a first and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Thank you, everybody. That's a tough issue. All right, it is moving on to item 6D. Does anybody need a break? Are we good to go?
Let's go.
All right, let's get through this. Item 6D, public hearing for land use map amendments and amendment to the Corcoran Southeast District Plan and design guidelines. Staff report, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a cleanup item. The city has initiated this request to correct a couple of inconsistencies on the land use map and in the Southeast District map. There are 4 parcels on the land through each of them. And then the property between Larkin and County Road 10 needs to be modified on the Southeast District map to be consistent with the adopted land use map. So the first change is on Larkin Road, and this parcel, this is actually 21000 Larkin Road, and it is on the existing land use map designated as rural residential, which is a designation for land outside of the MUSA. It should be guided and designated as existing residential because it's in the MUSA, that's the category. So this is just an error in the land use map. This is consistent with the guidelines in the adopted comprehensive plan. It's an error that would be corrected. The second change is in the downtown at the corner of Commerce and Commerce, 7631 Commerce Street. It's shown as commercial on the 2040 land use map, but should be industrial. It's zoned industrial and has been zoned industrial. So this is just a cleanup item to be consistent with what's on the property and what it's been zoned.
Could I interrupt for a second? Just for the sake of the evening, can we assume that we've all read this? Have we all read this material?
I did.
Okay, I did too, and I just have some comments, but I don't know that it's necessary to read through everything if we've read it.
The only question I would have is whether or not it would be best as, because this is a public hearing and there might be people online, that otherwise would
With
not
access
be,
to the packet, though.
well, I know that there's access, but they may be in attendance. I mean, I'm sure you don't have a lot of.
No, and I'm fine stopping. It's up to the whatever you want me to do, Mr. Chair.
I love it.
Well, is there, yeah, so if everybody's coming, again, I only have a couple, and they're just for my understanding, but, I certainly understand what needs to be done, why it's being proposed, so I'm okay to proceed.
If I could just make a quick
to the
comment.
public hearing, sure.
So, yeah, and this all seems just to be correcting some simple mistakes on the comprehensive plan. So, I'm great with that, but I will remember that the comprehensive plan can be amended. So I learned something on this, so thank you. That's all I have to say.
So what's the,
Well, if everybody's comfortable, we'll go to opening the public hearing. Okay, at this point, we'll go to the public hearing, and there's nobody left in attendance, so is there anybody online that would wish to address the commission?
We have
on
one
this topic?
caller, and she's been with us the entire time, so if you would like to raise your hand, go right ahead. Otherwise, we'll just continue on with the meeting. And she's not raising her hand. She's one of our fans. She's on all of our meetings. She's a diehard. So.
We got one.
A night owl.
Yeah.
So she's not raising her hand
Okay, it
Yeah,
doesn't
sure,
appear that
simply.
anybody has any comments. I'll take a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is now closed. Thank you. All right, commission discussion and recommendation. Please, Meredith, do you have any questions?
This is more of a logistical thing, but does planning commission do consent agenda in the future if we felt that we were all good with this? Could we do some kind of consent agenda?
I don't think we haven't historically, because this is the deliberative body, and these were all public hearings.
Right,
we
so we
couldn't,
right.
so you don't really get action items like the council does.
I don't actually have questions about the proposed changes.
I just have a couple on page 3. the zoning ordinance amendment. There's A, B, C, D that are talked about. Can you explain to me what item C is? Update the background parcel data for all maps. What is that?
So, on the map, every time we do a new Ravinia development, the lots that you've approved show up. So this was done in 2018 last time. So when you look at the whole Southeast District map, there are subdivisions that were not showing up on the map yet. So it's just the parcel data from Hennepin County. Doesn't change anything, it's just, if you look at
So when it's redeveloped, it's given new parcel numbers. Is it just a record of the historical parcels that it was originally?
So the existing land use map was done in 2018 based on the parcels that exist, the Southeast District map, that this existed in 2018. And remember, the Southeast District is a huge district.
Yes.
We just said, let's use the most current Hennepin County data, so there's just some new parcels that have been split or platted since 2018 that show up. Is that, I feel like I'm not making.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense,
Okay.
yeah. My second question then, was then, item D, the planned width of the linear park. Am I correct in assuming that that has been updated in the packet to 135 feet plus or minus?
Correct.
Okay. That's all I have. Anybody else? Commissioner Varenkamp?
I'm good.
Okay. All right, so we have a vote to, recommend approving a comprehensive plan amendment, and then an ordinance amending the text of chapter 10, and then a resolution approving findings of fact for an ordinance amending the text of chapter 10. Why don't we go ahead and take that one by one? Does anybody have any changes? All right. So, the approving a comprehensive plan amendment to amend a land use map for 4 parcels. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved, Varenkamp.
Second, Landerman.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, thank you. Okay, then, an ordinance amending the text of chapter 10. I have a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion, Landerman.
Second, Shulik.
All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? 5-0. And a resolution approving findings of fact for an ordinance amending the text of chapter 10. If there's no discussion, or I'll take a motion to approve.
Make that motion, Shulik.
Second, Landerman.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And it passes 5-0. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we are getting down there. So, reports, information, planning project update. Does anybody have any questions, comments for our professional staff regarding the planning memo?
This may not be in the memo, but when did the storage units come before the planning commission?
In 2000
I think 18, that was part of the Bass Lake Crossing South project.
was it really 18? I was going to say, maybe I'm thinking of the original one that came through in 2013. Because didn't we have an original, we had something that came through, I would say almost 10 years ago for that site. Didn't go.
Yeah, It had the big
Lions
greenway
Park.
in front. It
Yes.
had the big setbacks from the town.
There looks like there was a sketch plan in 2013 for Corcoran mini storage. Yeah, that's all I'm. Oh, and then there was.
We had the, remember the auto storage lot on Lions Park? That was about 10 years ago, but, Bass Lake Crossings was, 2018. So, it was a while ago. Yeah, yep.
Thank you.
All right, and I was watching the meeting, last week. So item 4, the condition use permit for accessory building sidewall height. That is, going to go through a rewriting, before it gets approved, and that'll come back to this commission, won't it?
Yes, so,
Will we have to have another public hearing on
that
it
will
then?
be on the August 5th agenda. So, Commissioner Lanterman raised some concerns about our accessory building code at the last meeting, and I reviewed it with the city attorney, who agreed that we should change it to say what we meant it to say in 2011. And so the Dornsbach CUP is on hold while we process that request, so that will be at your next meeting to consider that change.
Okay, good.
Did the applicant request that the city code be modified for his approval?
We brought it, he did not, he wanted his approval, but the city attorney drafted a memo, and we sent that to the council, and we think it should be changed because that was the intent. There was some discussion at the council about whether that should be the intent of the code, but, that is what the 2011 action was intended to do, was to allow this by CUP, so, he did not, he is anxiously awaiting that and hoping it gets passed so we can
Sure. Yeah, I'm just concerned that we took it upon ourselves to change that code. You know, if I applied because I wanted to do something in my backyard and my request was denied, I wouldn't expect you to rewrite the code because of me.
No, I think what the council felt was a little bit different is when we pulled the 2011 staff reports related to this item, it was very clear that the council was wanting to give landowners on less than 10 acres a path to get a higher sidewalk.
Okay.
Good job. Good job, Mark, bringing it up.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question?
You certainly can.
I'm gonna go specific for a little bit, but Paulson Farms was agreed to, but then I'm hearing that it's been pulled. But I'm seeing construction equipment on that property, tearing down trees and those kind of things along property lines and those kind of things. Is that still on with, I heard a new owner purchased that property. Does that stay intact or not?
Well, the application was approved and could proceed, but it is my understanding that a new owner bought it and no intention to do it. Didn't buy it to do that part. So it will expire if it doesn't get built for the approved plan.
Okay, so no matter who bought it, they can just still follow that plot. But like I said, the construction, the excavation equipment has come. When we were talking on that property, there would be no traffic on the Bechtold Road, and since Monday, they have put in a culvert and a driveway off of Bechtold Road now. And tree removal along the fence line has begun. There's 4 or 5 pieces of equipment out there and stuff.
They can do that because it is not moving ahead at Paulson Farms. They have not reported the plat for Paulson Farms. The new owner does not, my understanding, intend to proceed with Paulson Farms and Paulson Farms will expire.
But but they can add the road access to Bechtold Road.
Yeah, I mean, any landowner can use the road as a landowner. Because it's not a, my knowledge, it is a landowner clearing land and clearing trees.
Okay, thanks.
Is the new owner public record?
You could look on Hennepin County and see if the sale went through.
Why am I not looking at these? I don't see
It was at 90 acres out on County Road 30.
OS&P plat, the open space and preservation plat.
40,
Oh, yeah.
yep,
Oh, yeah.
45 acres was gonna be set aside, then there'd be 18 parcels on the other 45. They had the power line easement.
Might have been.
They remember they had the 10 acres on the south side, and they were gonna keep that as farmland, and then they had a big chunk of woods. We were talking about, they were gonna put in a trail and paint it. Yeah.
So I'm just,
And they've been hunting back there.
Yeah, and, you know, you can certainly, chat with, Brad or, not Brad, with, Mike Richard, who might know if there's a building permit, but there is no plat. That project, Paulson Farms, which was approved in August of last year, is not proceeding.
okay, I just, if the person that I think purchased it is doing it, I'm concerned that he's another property owner next to me, he's pushing trees onto my property that are on his and stuff, and I don't know my recourse, so I'll take it from there. Thank you.
Yeah, I would talk with Mike. It is the person you think it is, so.
Okay, thanks.
John's thinking the same person. Yes, sir.
Anything else?
No,
Councilmember-
anybody have any other questions?
Councilman Nichols on, do we get a,
Oh, I dropped off a while ago.
oh,
All right, well,
So,
sure, can't stay for all of our meetings.
yeah,
Giving him grief.
and that's fine. I would suggest anybody then that has a question about the council meeting, stuff, just to contact him directly. All right, any other business?
Planning or council liaison, or we aren't there yet?
Yeah, so number 8, the commissioner liaison calendar. We have July 8th, Commissioner Scholak, and then you, Mr. Varenkamp. Wu, Jacobs, Lanterman, and Scholak. I have no reason to believe right now that I can't make mine. Anybody else need a change or a swap? All right, if you do, please reach out to, I suppose, Brad, and he usually is pretty good about getting that out to us.
What date am I at? Some of you can see.
Oh, you are on August 12th. Yep. Okay, I think that pretty much concludes our business, so Chair will entertain a motion to close this meeting, to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All right, all those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you very much.
You have a similar meeting next week. So you got a lot of stuff on next week.